Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Jimmy. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have the Fuji Xt2. If you have a Fuji camera or any mirrorless or DSLR camera in your hand and you're just getting started and you want to know more about image size and image quality, I have some limited knowledge on the subject and some personal experience I'd like to share with you. Right off the bat, I'll tell you my personal settings are to have image size to be the biggest it can go and image quality the best it can go. I want it fine, the most dense Jpeg this thing can make, which means a processed picture that I can share with my friends and do barely any editing with if I can help it. And I want the largest aspect ratio, like an HD size aspect ratio. You can mess around with that as well, which I'll show you in a second, but having that in mind, that's usually how I have it. Do I have it like that all the time? No, and I'll get to that in a second. So go ahead, grab your camera, whatever it may be, and follow along. Okay, so turn on your camera and press the menu button with your right thumb, or whichever camera you're using. You should know what the menu button is, and then you can press the right arrow after you go to image size. Now you can choose between any of these three larges, any of these three mediums, or any of these three smalls. They each have their own set of aspect ratios, they repeat, and they just kind of go from small, medium to large. Okay, where do I usually leave mine? As I mentioned, I leave mine at the highest, 3x2 for large. Okay. The reason why I do that, as I mentioned, is because I want the highest quality, the biggest picture, and I'll just edit it down later. Now, if I am taking pictures of something that's of reference, that's not that important, let's say I'm looking for apartments, I'm not going to take high quality pictures of every single room, right? I can just use my cell phone and bring down the file size super small, or I'll use this camera here and just bring it down to maybe this one right here on small. Okay, that should be fine. It makes it easier to transport the pictures to your friends or down to your hard drive. You won't need to cut it down to size anymore because it's pretty small. Okay, again, all the aspect ratios are listed down here by my left thumb. Can you see that? Okay, after I go to the biggest, largest picture setting, aspect ratio, I'll press menu OK. That selects it and you'll see it right there. Press the down arrow for me and it goes to image quality. You'll notice here it's already on F. That stands for fine. I pressed the right arrow to get here. Fine, I'm guessing, is the highest quality in terms of the picture that can be taken. Normal is the next step down. Now, do I ever see a difference between fine and normal? I don't. So if I can remember, I'll leave it on fine because I want the densest, most information full of picture I can possibly muster. Normal is not bad either. I'm sure it's fine. Fine plus raw. This is when you're taking a JPEG, which is the fine, and a RAW file. For those of you who don't understand this, RAW means it's an unprocessed file that this camera takes for you. It's for you to mess around with later on your computer or edit them on the camera itself. Fine is the JPEG file that this camera has taken the raw file, edited it on its own, and spit it out according to what you wanted. So let's say you're taking a black and white picture, right? You take a picture, it takes the raw file, it messes it around, it compresses it, and makes it into a black and white picture for you to share with your friends or social media. That's what a JPEG normal picture is. That's what a JPEG fine picture is. When you choose fine plus raw, now it's taking a JPEG and a RAW and recording them together. I'll get into why this is important in a second. Now you can choose normal plus RAW, a normal quality file, which is fine, and a RAW file along with it. So you're getting two at the same time. Or you can just settle for a RAW picture if you don't want to have too many copies on your card here. Okay, so why is this important? I'll get to this in 1 second after I put in this card. Why did I leave it out? I want to show you guys here. I'm going to press back here with my right thumb and press up. If I press the right arrow yet again, we'll go back to this screen. You remember this screen. This column here shows the aspect ratio. This is all empty. If I put in a card now, I'm going to show you guys what happens. This is a 64 gigabyte card, I believe. go to menu again, and I'm going to go back to image size. Press the right arrow. Now you see here all these values are here. There's 4,180 frames that I'm able to take in this setting. Yes, of the large 3:2 aspect ratio. Okay, now if I press back here, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back one more time. 4180. Okay, I'm gonna press back here, press the image quality. It's on fine right now. I'm gonna go to normal. I'm gonna press menu, okay. I've set that to normal, but the aspect ratio is the same. I'm gonna go back to image size here. Now it's 6,271 frames. So what happened? The number actually went up, meaning that because I reduced the image quality, I can now have more images stored on this camera card here. The card is, the amount of images depends on the image quality, image size, and how big your card is, right? So if I am worried about the space in my card, am I going to set this to the largest setting with the finest quality with raw images? No, right? If I have a very small card and I have an all-day shoot, all my other cards are busted, I'm going to go to image size and bring this down to maybe large here. If this is a very important shoot, and image quality, I'm just going to do normal or normal plus raw or just raw. You know what I mean? I'm going to want to conserve space. The more files, the bigger the files, the more space it eats up on your card. That might be a little confusing the way I explained it, but just to be on the safe side, get a big card. They're relatively cheap nowadays for how robust they are, and you can shoot as big of files as you want. Now, a little word about these numbers here as they do change. They're also here. When I take a picture, they're also here. The number of images that can be taken now on this card in the current settings. Okay, so it's always with you. And you can also see here that I have this on large, on normal setting. That is the size that I have chosen. Now, if I go back to menu here and I change image quality to fine plus raw, this means that the camera, as I mentioned, is taking 2 images and delivering it to you, one fine and one raw. Can you imagine how much more space this will eat up? Let's see. I'm going to press fine plus raw, image size. I'm going to go and bump it up a notch. Okay, now it's at 933 images it can save onto this card at the current settings. I'm going to press menu, okay, and take a picture of my foggy finger. Okay, so I'm going to press play here. This is pretty important. When you press play, I'm going to move this dial to the left. Okay, you see here, this file here, it looks like there's just one picture. But wait a minute, Jimmy, you told me that if I choose that one setting, fine plus raw, you get 2 images. One is a fine JPEG and a raw file for you to mess around with. So one safety JPEG that's already processed and one that's unprocessed. I only see one foggy finger. What's up with that? Well, you won't see it here. What you will see is just this one file, but when you put this on your computer, you will see 2 pictures. One is slightly processed and kind of changed up, and the other one is the raw big file that Fuji produces for you. Just to give you guys a heads up, when you see that fine and raw, normal and raw, it's 2 files, okay? Now, before I let you guys go, half press the shutter button, you can always go to the Q menu here. Press the Q right there. Now, I can go to raw F here. Can you guys see that? Okay, that means one raw file and one fine JPEG. That was a setting we talked about. Press the left arrow here, and that is the large 3:2 aspect ratio. So you see, it's so important to know the image size and image quality that not only is it the first thing when you press the menu, it's also in the quick menu right there that was in there from the get-go in the camera. So press the Q to adjust it here with the knob. See, there you go. I'm moving the knob back here. I can adjust it that way. and then move this as well. If I don't want RAW anymore, I can just take normal pictures like so, half press the shutter button, and you're in business. Just one more thing before I let you go. I know I've said that before. If you set this to take pictures at a rundown junkyard for reference purposes, and you move this to RAW F, and you change this to, let's say, the smallest one here by square, you see how it's cropped right there? You're going to be able to tell that this is where you left off at when you take your next photo shoot. But let's say you go ahead and go to Q menu and change this to, for example, 3x2. It looks full frame, right? And you take a picture like this, you turn off the camera, next week you have a big photo shoot, you don't check all your settings, guess what all your picture's gonna be in? This one. You can't unshrink this. It's in this setting, it's small, you can't do anything about that. That's why I leave everything big all the time, so I can shrink it down later. This, you're screwed. For the most part. It's hard to tell. Now, I rarely look at these tiny little icons here. It tells you what your setting is at. That's why it's so important. Okay, you might not even have the display to show you these things. What I'm saying is I've made this mistake before. Be careful when you have back-to-back shoots. Even if it's own personal shoots that you have, you might find a great shot one day and you come back home to edit it and you realize it's too small and you wanted it bigger, and you say to yourself, if only I checked my settings. That's why I mentioned in one video, I dedicated a whole video to it. It's so important to check your settings from shoot to shoot that they actually label it here for you. But if you miss that, which I have done, you're kind of out of luck. You're stuck with the pictures that you took in those particular settings. So what did we learn today? The importance between the relationship of picture size, picture quality, how to access it in your menu, as well as the quick menu and what these numbers mean and why they only show up when you stick in a certain card. Different card, different values. I hope this helps you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.